Good evening. Can everyone hear me well? Yeah? I don't really see you, so just raise your voices. That's what it's about. So good evening, I'm Laureline Chopard, and I will be your host for this special session. I'm the president for Protect Our Winters France, and on behalf of Protect Our Winters Europe. We are a non-profit, and our goal is to turn the passion for the outdoors and for the mountains into purpose. We try to rally the outdoor community to protect the places we love and the places we live in. So tonight, we will see together how mountain areas with glaciers on the front line are climate sentinels. We will see how mountain communities face deep changes and how they adapt. And we will explore cooperation and inclusion as paths that can help ensure their future. I strongly recommend that you stay after us at 6:15 for the Glacier Night, which is co-hosted with Chamonix-Mont-Blanc, which is an iconic town that faces deep challenge with climate change. We will have screenings, conversation with scientists and athletes, and good drinks and food. So where do we start? Generally, we start with a story that says once upon a time. Because as humans, we need stories. Stories are how we shape the world. They speak directly to our hearts and souls. Our first speaker is an internationally awarded filmmaker, environmental ambassador, and media entrepreneur. He is committed to telling stories, creating a sometimes missing link between science and the rest of the world, including policymakers, decision leaders, and medias. His latest documentary, The Last Glaciers, showcases how climate change is affecting mountain areas, glacier retreat, and the crucial role of mountain ecosystems for ecological stability. Please welcome Mr. Craig Leeson.
Everybody, life-changing moments. Who has ever had a moment that has changed their thinking, their career, or even their life? Anybody in the room had one of those? Most people have. It's something that happens to filmmakers a lot, a real lot, and generally during the middle of a project. In 2016, I was just finishing another film called A Plastic Ocean. Has anyone seen A Plastic Ocean on Netflix? It was the #1 documentary on Netflix, iTunes, and Amazon when it was released. It took 8 years to make. And I was looking at the next project, and a good friend of mine, a restaurateur and an extreme sports man, came to me and said, I'm part of a new sport called alpinism, extreme alpinism, para-alpinism. And it combines the sports of mountaineering, ice climbing, and paragliding. And basically what it came down to, in my mind, was these guys were too lazy to walk off the mountain, so they took paragliders with them and flew off. But there was only about 50 people doing it on the planet at the time, and it's very dangerous because not a lot was known about flying paragliders above 3,000 meters off these mountains. And so he asked me if I'd be interested in doing a documentary on it. Having just done an impact environmental documentary that almost squeezed the essence of life out of me over 8 years, I thought it'd be a great pivot. So we went to the mountains to do the research. We went to the Alps, and we went in the middle of winter. And when I got there in the middle of winter, there was no snow. And it made me think a lot. And a life-changing moment happened at that point. And I'm going to come back to that. But to give you context about what I'm talking about, we're going to play the first clip, which will show you the trailer for the film, The Last Glaciers. Then you'll understand what the film became, and it became an IMAX movie. And we're releasing it online as we speak now. We've got a screening tonight at 8 p.m. here. If you're around, come and see it. But first we'll take a look at the trailer, then I'll come back and explain how we pivoted to make this film. Please play the clip.
My granddaughter, I don't know if she will see them all.
The Earth's going to survive. It's survived worse than the human race, but it may just wipe us out in the process of surviving.
the first documentary film team to be invited by NASA.
Change in seasons, change in maximum temperatures, shift in vegetation. All these things are very clear signs that we have a change in climate, and that's not disputable.
Let's do it. I don't think there would be a better way to film the glacier than to use free flight. They look threatening from where I was, and they look threatening to the town below.
Today there was another guide that was killed up on the ridge because of the soft snow.
It's pretty exposed here, I'm not gonna lie to you. If you mess up, you die. That's as far out of my comfort zone as I could possibly go.
If they don't do anything right now, in the future we are going to look back and we will either laugh at them or we will hate them.
It's not just about hugging whales and being sympathetic to the penguins. It's about our future. It all ties together.
We probably have 10 years still ahead of us to really change. If we lose these 10 years, it's going to be really hard to live on this planet.
From being one about extreme sports to being an impact film, because what happened was when we got to the mountains, as I said, there was no snow, the glaciers were retreating, and this was something that surprised me. I didn't know a lot about the issue of climate change, and so I started asking around, being very curious and a former journalist. I went to the local meteorologist and I spoke to him about what was happening. Is this unusual? And he said, no, this has been happening for 30 years. I spoke to the guides that climb the mountains, and they said our job is becoming more difficult and more dangerous because the ice is going, the mountains are heating up, and as they heat, they crack and they release rock. We're getting more avalanches, and people are dying, particularly on Mont Blanc, which is the world's most dangerous mountain, kills more people than any other mountain on the planet. Most people think it's Everest, it's not. And so that started to get me to think about the documentary we were filming. There seemed to be a story here that hadn't been told. And I went back to Hong Kong, where I was based, and my studio was based, to give a talk on a plastic ocean. And at that conference, there was a scientist called Jérôme Chapelier who ran the oldest ice institute on the planet, which is in Grenoble. And he gave a talk about ice memory and his ice memory project. And this was a project where they traveled around the world, taking ice cores from deep from glaciers, analyzing the bubbles, the frozen gases in these ice blocks, and being able to paint a picture of what the atmosphere was like going back 1 million years. In 1 million years, there have been 3 ice ages. And they were able to precisely define the atmospheric gases and precisely define how they had changed over 1 million years. And of course, guess when the most significant change happened? 160 years ago, when we started extracting and burning oil and gas. And at that same moment, we started to see soot appear in the layers of the ice. And I realized then that this was a story that science hadn't told effectively and hadn't been relayed to the general public, which was probably why there was a lot of denial about the climate. So the next clip shows you the science segment in the film and explains why we pivoted the film from being an extreme sport documentary into a climate documentary hidden in the adventure of an extreme sports documentary. Can we play the clip, please?
Before the training begins, I'm travelling to Grenoble, home to a global study called the Ice Memory Project, to understand the science that demonstrates the rapid change to our climate and why humans are responsible.
So this institute was born in 1958, and that's kind of the heart of the science of what we call glaciology. we use the ice as a raw material to understand the story of the plant. We drill ice cores in the ice, and with these ice cores, we reconstruct the evolution of the climate, of the environment, of the composition of the atmosphere, how much greenhouse gases were present in the atmosphere through time.
In the past million years, the Earth has been through 10 ice ages, cooling and warming as it's wobbled around the sun. As it cools, snow falls on high mountain areas and transforms into thick ice masses called glaciers, which flow like frozen rivers to lakes and seas, carving out valleys as they move. These glaciers trap tiny air bubbles, which provide scientists with a historical record of temperatures and the greenhouse gases that cause global warming. The ice cores from these glaciers are telling us that temperatures and the level of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere have risen and fallen naturally. That is, until we humans started to burn fossil fuels and heat the planet. This was the first time that I'd actually understood the science behind climate change and why humans were responsible for it. But what Jerome told me next about the Earth's water storage systems was absolutely frightening.
70% of the fresh water of the world is stored in the Antarctic ice sheet. If it melts, the seawater goes up by 50 to 60 meters. You have 2/3 of the world population living on the coast. If you move to the Andes and to the Himalayas, for instance, the key aspect of the glacier is the source of water. When the glaciers are gone, there is a big problem. You lose basically 30% of the water to millions of people.
So that was, for me, very profound. Why does it matter? Well, for those reasons, that shocked me. And we actually went to all of the places Jerome said to go to. We went to the Himalaya, we went to the Andes, I went to Antarctica. We went to 13 different countries to film this and to show what was happening. And it's important because I initially thought that glaciers were these pretty white things that sat on the top of mountains, and I did not understand the role they played. And of course, as we climbed with scientists and went into these places to learn about these hostile environments, these very fragile environments, it was revealed to me how important they are. They don't just store water for our usage around the world. They reflect radiation and sunlight back into the atmosphere. They keep the Earth cool and temperate so we can live on it. As they disappear, they reveal brown, dark rock, which does the opposite. It attracts heat, and as mountains that are bare attract heat, then it heats the planet, and we get the reverse happening, which of course isn't great for humans or any other species. By the end of this century, the scientists that we interviewed all said they believe there won't be any glaciers left. Peru has lost half of their 700 glaciers in the last 30 years. That's a country that relies on glacial water for hydration, for tap water. It's one of the driest countries on the planet. It now has a national emergency that its government has declared because they're losing glaciers. So this was a story that we thought needed to be told. It wasn't an easy one to tell. It took us 7 years to make the film, and we got caught during COVID actually doing the post-production on it, and everything had to halt. But we formed an alliance with IMAX, and we screened a special educational version of 40 minutes with IMAX 2 years ago, primarily for schools. And we're now, at this very moment, releasing the 1 hour 30-minute cinematic feature film version for everyone to see online. And I'll get to that in a minute. What we're also doing is we are announcing today, actually, an education program that we want to work with corporations, family offices, philanthropic institutions, and with schools and communities around the world, because we get so many requests to screen the film for children, to do talks, and it's a very expensive thing to do, to travel with a film and do this. We did it with a plastic ocean. We want to do it with this film now. So we're trying to get corporations to sponsor this project to help us bring the film to the schools so that we can educate young people about why climate matters, why the environment matters. And if anyone in the room would like to take part in that or help partner with us, please come and see me afterwards, and I'll give you a deck that you can take away and have a look at. Actually, it's me. I think we can play the next slide on this. So that's the actual slide that I wanted to show you, which is the education is a powerful solution. And it is one of the three solutions. Education, systemic change, and smarter consumerism are the tools we need to provide to younger people to help them solve the problem. Because at the moment it's too late for us. Our parents created it, we've perpetuated it, and now it's time to fix it. And young people are the way to do that. If you want to watch the film and you don't get a chance to come and see it tonight, take a screenshot here of this QR code, and that will take you directly to a page that is a landing page where you can pay for the film. And we do ask people to pay to watch the film like you would have to on Amazon. It was a $3 million film to make, very expensive to make these films, particularly to get into these difficult mountain areas. We were climbing 6,000 meter peaks all around the world, taking 1/4 ton of camera equipment up and flying off these mountains. And in fact, the opening of the film is a crash that we had off Mount Vainarahu in the Andes, off 6,000 meter peak, because it was so turbulent. And we thought the best way to get people to watch the rest of the film was to start with the action at the start and see whether we survived. And of course, Malcolm and I did, because I'm here talking to you right now. But the film, so we want to get people involved in helping us distribute the film. So if you go to that landing page, which looks like an Amazon or Netflix page, there is the opportunity to become a distributor. And you can become a master distributor, and if you do, we will provide you with a percentage, either 10% or 20%, depending on which one you take, of the film ticket price. And that perpetuates down everybody who then shares the film that you share. You get that back, coming back to you. And we're doing this also with schools and with charities and the institutions, science institutions that help us make the film, because we want to return something to them and help them raise funds as well. So it's an opportunity for us to get the community involved to help us distribute the film rather than paying a studio to do that distribution. It's an opportunity for the audience to become involved, to help raise money either for themselves or for institutions that they'd like to be involved with, and to get this very valuable and important message out to the world. So I hope you'll take part in that. I hope you'll come and see the film tonight and be a part of the climate message. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Craig, for this opening. I was lucky enough last year to spend a few months in the Mairie family in New Zealand, where I went by plane, I'm sorry. And they used to tell me a story saying that whales are our older sisters, and that their song is the beating heart of the ocean. And I really like to think that if you've been close to a glacier, you know in your bones that they are the beating heart of the mountains. And if you haven't been close to a glacier, today is your lucky day, because we are going to experience it, brought straight to you from the glacier. We have Ugo Nanni with us. He's a researcher, glaciologist, who studies glacier stability and hydrology. He uses their song and sounds as research material, and he is also committed to sharing their voices. In his own words, it is not because you don't hear a voice that it doesn't exist. It all starts with listening. Then we take action, then you take action. So Ugo, the mic is for you and your partner.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I think, as Laureline just said, something very important is to listen. And I'm here as a scientist because listening to the science in a time where the science is not listened to is very important. What does science bring to us? When we look around and we have questions, we are trying to understand what's around us, what's happening. And without the science, without the scientists, it would be very difficult to understand what's happening around us. And this is to one of these questions that I'm working. The question is, what's happening to this glacier? What's happening at the end of the world when the climate is warming up? What I'm doing is I'm asking this question to the glaciers themselves. I'm putting microphone inside the glacier, where the glacier touches the rock and where the meltwater caused by the warming causes the glacier to slip and to collapse. And when I was proposed to do this talk, I thought that talking as a scientist is very important. Of course, having the scientist on stage, but having the glacier on stage with you might be equally important. So today I will share with you, and you will listen for 2 minutes to the glacier itself, to the recording we do inside the glacier, where the stability of the glacier is at stake. So now I let you listen to the sound of the glacier. What you are hearing now is a song of the glaciers. And I'm sharing this song today because in the 60s, when we were listening to the birds, the springs started to be silent. In the 70s, when scientists started to listen to the whales, the ocean started to be silent. And today, as we listen to this glacier, the mountains are starting to be silent. And when we listen to this song, the question is, do we want to leave this silent world to our children? Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Ugo. Pretty hard to transition from that. So now that our hearts and minds are open, we can now go further into the subject, bringing together different perspectives, science, inhabitants, communities, industries. How does the climate crisis affect mountains, its consequences, and the way to drive systemic change? And for this, I have here with me some of the best mountain specimens. Dr. Heïdi Sevestre is an internationally renowned glaciologist. She's a leading voice in climate advocacy and a Po-France member. And she's also Deputy Secretary of AMAP, the Arctic Monitoring Assessment Program. Please, Heïdi, come on stage with me. Mr. Éric Fournier is mayor of Chamonix-Mont-Blanc, the iconic mountain town and destination that is on the front line of a climate crisis that is deeply reshaping its future. Please, Éric, come on stage with me. And Mr. Xavier Le Guen is VP of Winter Sports Equipment for Salomon Group, a now global group that was born in the mountains in winter and has adapted to become a global leader in outdoor gear and aims to connect more than ever people with nature. Please come with us, Xavier. So I'm going to leave space for you guys because you're the heroes of the next 25 minutes. So maybe we could start with exploring the saying that mountains are climate sentinels, and maybe explore why we should all watch closely what happens in the mountains, because it does not concern only mountain communities and people, because glaciers melting have an overall impact on meteorological system and hydrological systems, and because changes in the mountains are happening much faster than in other parts of the world, and maybe give us a glimpse of what might happen in other places. So I will leave the mic to the best person to talk about that. That would be Heïdi.
Thank you so much. But so great to be here with you today. And I'd like to recognize the amazing two presentations, first from Craig and also the work that Ugo is doing, which was great to, I think, feel the depth of the topic when we talk about what's happening to our mountains. As a glaciologist, I do get the chance to spend an awful lot of time on glaciers around the world. But perhaps if we focus today on the mountains we have here in this beautiful country, these two gentlemen know very, very well that mountains are warming up twice as fast as the rest of the world. So mountains are truly incredible barometers of climate changes, and they are deeply affected by the warming of the temperatures. When we just look at mountain glaciers, for example, the mountain glaciers of Europe have been the one losing the most ice since the years 2000. So they've lost 38% of their mass since the year 2000. Just let that sink in, right? In Switzerland, over 2 years, glaciers lost 10% over 2 years only of their volume. So these glaciers are responding extremely dramatically to climate change. And of course, we're all aware here, and it was so eloquently explained by Craig, that glaciers and snowfields are these incredible water towers that we have in the world. And if you look closely, 700 million people on Earth use this water from the mountains seasonally, of course for drinking, but also for the production of hydroelectricity, also to irrigate crops, also to cool down nuclear power plants in our country. So it really does matter. And if you zoom out a little bit, it's a quarter of the planet that really relies on these water resources. So what's really important to understand is not just the people from the mountains who are deeply affected by these glaciers receding, and also all the risks and hazards coming down from these glaciers receding. It's people all along the rivers coming from these glaciers, and also, and I'll finish with this, the people on coastlines. Because today we know that mountain glaciers, even more than Greenland or Antarctica, mountain glaciers have been the largest contributors to sea level rise when you just look at the cryosphere. So even people on coastlines who are thousands of kilometers away from glaciers suffer from the melting of these beautiful ecosystems. And the more they melt, the warmer the mountain gets. And so these glaciers are really some of the drivers. They've become drivers of climate change, and they're not just passively responding. And I'm sure these two gentlemen will be able to explain, how much their activities, their lives and livelihoods are also being impacted by this.
Yeah, thank you, Heïdi. That was crystal clear. Éric Fournier, maybe you could just tell us how you have seen climate change affecting life in Chamonix and how it is affecting today maybe mountain activities or even the way you think about the future of your city?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I have to apologize because the only thing which is still frozen is my English. Effectively, in Chamonix, we have we are at in front of these changes. We can show not every year but every day the changes in mountaineering areas. When I was young, we used to say, "Oh, it will be for the next generation." It's not for my generation, but I am old. But it's every day that we can face the change of the mountain. Of course, with the loss of glacial area, but also with the evolution of natural risks, not only with avalanche or ice, but also with a different repartition of water precipitation, which could drive mountain territories on very high difficulties, as you saw last year in La Bérarde.
Yeah.
You know, French. It's a French valley, Le Vénéon, which was the devastated.
The whole village was flooded
Yeah.
by a glacial lake, I think, that broke.
Yeah, it was a combination of a crazy thunderstorm, glacial lake, and just better in the retreat of the glacier.
And of course, I think that moreover, the problem is, and the question is, the capacity of living in our mountain territories. And our mountain areas are faster than the others confronted to this subject. So we have to adapt. I think that the main subject is the capacity of finding new ways of living, new ways of thinking, things like tourism. The fact is that when you're mayor of Chamonix, Chamonix is a small city, only 9,000 inhabitants. But when the season is at the eye of the season, we can host between 8 and 9,000
Yeah, okay, 80,000 people.
People at the
10
same
times
time.
more.
Is it not? Is it coherent for the future? We have to deal with such topics now, and I think to reinvent new forms of tourism.
Yeah, I think these changes, they have triggered maybe faster than in other places, huge questioning for decision makers. And they have them and us facing our own contradiction. Is how can we be part of the problem? Because like hosting people from all over the world is being part of the problem and also being part of the solution. How can we be a global brand that produces and sells like outdoor products all over the world, be a part of the solution? And how do, in each of your roles, manage like to deal with this contradiction? Maybe we could start with you, Xavier, again at Salomon. Is how do you just take conscious, be okay with the contradiction, and say we are going to act anyway, and how do we act on?
Sure. So first of all, I think that the first thing is to recognize what's happening, and we are all sharing the same thing. We are witnessing the same thing. So there is no debate. And as part of this mountain community, we can only acknowledge what's happening. In this context, we have to take our share, and to take our share because, as Laureline mentioned at the beginning, this is a systemic situation that we are facing. Nobody can solve this on its own. It's all about collaboration, sharing, working together, and as part of the mountain family, this is what we aim at doing. Of course, we have to do our homework on our side. How do we develop better product? How do we reduce our impact? All of that is already being addressed, and we are working hard to do that. And already on this point, it's a collaborative work where we are all competitors, Salomon, Rossignol, Atomic, Head, Fisher, there is one thing on which we are working together. It's building the right tools to assess our impact, to enable our developers to do a better job, to ultimately having a fully circular solution for the products that we make. The second dimension I would like to emphasize, we have a conviction at Salomon, is that connecting people with nature makes them better. Makes them better and also makes them realize of what's happening because of climate change. So bringing them to the mountain is also making them ambassador of this change that we need to operate, all of us, whatever our activity, wherever we are. And the last part, I would say, I will really insist on the fact that for us, it's a matter of culture. Sometimes we see the mountain as a destination for tourism, for skiing, for sport. It's true. Mountain is also a place where real people live, where real people go to school, study, work, and practice some sports. So it's how, again, are we part of this community to help developing the practice, the sport, on a much more sustainable way. So for some of you, maybe today you have been able to assist to different initiatives driven by Mountain Changemaker, by POW, by OSV, Outdoor Sports Valley. Again, this is where we need to work all together, also with the different federations, sports federation, how do we evolve our sports. So that's typically how we work all together in the same direction.
Yeah, the thing is that mountain economy is fueled by capitalism and extractivism. And how do we deal with that? And how long can we keep on dealing with that? Maybe Heidi, even you told me when we were preparing this that even as a scientist, like these contradictions are really also in everything you do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We do all have contradictions, and it's great, I think, to talk about them. You know, most of our expeditions, especially, so not quite in the mountains sometimes, but most importantly in the polar regions, they do rely heavily on fossil fuels still today. So it's very important to show that we can also think about our own system as scientists and try to be better. Because one thing I wanted to say after listening to the both of you is that, you know, there are physical realities we really cannot negotiate with. We know that at the moment, if we do not decarbonize fast enough, we're 100% losing our alpine glaciers, 100%. You know, if we go beyond 2 degrees, we know that permafrost is going to emit as much greenhouse gas emissions as the EU. And so these physical realities really help us to guide, I think, the decisions we make, to really be aligned on, you know, how much we need to decarbonize, how do we need to take care about the resources that we use, in order to avoid crossing these certain tipping points that could really tip us into irreversible consequences. And I think this is why it's so great, because we rarely get the chance to meet and to be together, because we all have to be, you know, guided with the same goals, and we all have to have the same ambition. But obviously it will be very difficult without, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, good regulations. We do need them. They're extremely important. We need the political will to do that, not just on the local level. We need political will on the national level. And I believe this is where also scientists can help you, you know, to achieve these things, because we have the facts. You cannot debate them, but we will never be able to achieve these goals, to preserve our environments, to help our activities, if we don't have these two, you know, systems in place.
Yeah, in fact, that's the next stage. Thank you, Heidi. Yeah, go on. Yeah, that's the next stage, is how do you just like say, okay, we are part of the problem, but we have to become agents of change, because you have the legitimacy to do so as mountain destinations, as mountain brands, and maybe redefine what it means to be a tourism destination. That's what you were saying, Éric, for example, saying, okay, it's not about being a touristic destination, it's about hosting people and being able to tell them about climate change. And in fact, you completely change your purpose. And your purpose is not to host people so they have fun, it's just to host them so they become like more advocates against climate change. how hard is it, like in a town like Chamonix, to say to people, okay, guys, we are going to do like things differently from now on? How do you drive change on a local level?
We are trying to reduce the complexity of the difference between experts, science, and political decision.
Okay.
We are not in a very nice time for this, because everyone thinks that he is an expert of everything. And it's very difficult for a political decision, local or regional or national. In Chamonix, we created a scientific council to help us to provide expert advice and recommendation on cross-disciplinary issues, environmental, social, economic, and scientific concern. It will help us to balance the choices we have to make. By example, it's very difficult. I'm also a president of an association which deals with air quality. If you deal with air quality and you are responsible of a resort, perhaps you can choose gas as energy. Okay, very good for air quality, but very bad for the planet. GES, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very important for us to have scientists, experts, and we have the luck in Chamonix to have a lot of people which are very involved in science and which show this valley as a laboratory.
Yeah, you have research centers and laboratories.
It's a luck, and we have to promote all the initiative with scientists to say, okay, please, you can come and experiment the things you have to do, and after we can share this with all the territories, all the alpine and mountaineering territories.
Yeah.
It's the sense of networks we organize, like with all the political responsible of mountaineering areas. So it's very important for us to create a good collaboration between scientists and the political decision.
Yeah, you said it earlier, Xavier, like there's no competition in this. Yep. We have to work together. And you were telling me that it's also very interesting that brands are also like taking a new role, just like working with territories, working with scientists, and not just selling products. And that's how do you think, how should brands just like take responsibility too, and also like just take more action with territories or...
Yeah, absolutely. So first it has to start with what we control. So again, our production and so on, as we said. I think the first dimension in which we are really working closer and closer together is with institution and federation. I just give an example. The Ski Federation, for instance, is putting norm in place to control and limit the performance of the product, to guarantee a minimum safety for the racers. What if tomorrow, by working with them, we can establish norms as well in terms of sustainability on the product? If we say, now 100% of the products that you will find in World Cup have to be 100% recyclable. That's an example of things on which we can be extremely practical.
The World Cups shouldn't be like too far away, that athletes shouldn't have to take planes too much.
We can also discuss about the CO2 impact. Absolutely, there is a lot of things we can do, and there is the work that we are doing as well with the territory. How do we work together to have more less impactful slopes with the right safety and so on, but where we can lower the impact of our sports overall? How do we work with the territory to allow people to go to the resorts, for instance, with much less impact? And that's typically where we are taking a big share. Otherwise, for sure, we all, as a human person, we will be at risk, but also very boldly, brutally, as a brand, our sports and our business and our market is at risk as well. So it's absolutely in our duty and in our interest to fix it.
Yeah, and it could be also your responsibility to to educate practitioners that like the outdoors is not it's not just a playground. It used to be, but it's like really a super fragile place where people live and where like other like sentient beings are living. Like it's not ours. To make them like more aware of what's going on, and it's not only like a postcard stuff for your like activities.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And I think one element which is important is sometimes we make shortcuts. What's happening in the mountain is because of the activity of the mountain. It's not quite the case. What's happening in the mountain, it's the consequence of global warming. And global warming is a consequence of all our activities everywhere. And that's why taking this into account, understanding the deep impacts is very positive, because ultimately we can all act on it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Can
Heïdi.
I ask a question? Because I'm always curious how we, the scientists, can be better. I'm so happy to hear about the Scientific Council. This is awesome. How do you think we can improve the way we reach out to brands, for example? And do you also have the chance to engage with scientists? I'm really curious about this because I'm sure we can improve.
We can always improve. But no, I think already, so Salomon, like many other brands, is committed to reduce the CO2 emissions through science-based targets. So it means that I think a lot of brands and a lot of companies have already made a big step approaching the issue with a very, very scientific approach, developing tools to measure the impact, to be extremely rational. If I'm doing this, I'm improving by X% the impact of my product and so on. So there is probably always things to do more, but I would say it would be probably not very honest to say that the issue is the lack of connection with science and so on, because I think scientific today have already brought a lot to the debate. And it's more now to how do we convert that, and how do we invest in research, in development, to take the benefit of the learning that we have on the science side to put it in practice on our activity.
Yeah, the thing is what you make of it, is that you cannot just like, if you listen to it at some point, you cannot do business as usual. And that's maybe also like where some brands or some territories like sometimes like the ability, the tools, or just sometimes only the courage to say, okay, we have to stop what we are doing or the way we are doing it, and we have to do it differently. And in some places they will have to, because they are, and it already happens in mountains. Like Chamonix is a good example, but like a lot of very small mountain towns and places in other not in the Alps, and maybe in other places in France and in Europe, they are stopping winter activities. They are like doing things differently, but they do it in hard times. And the good thing is that, like I was saying, it's when the weather is good that you change the roof. Is that like the weather is still good for like some of them? Is how do we like just prepare together? Yeah. Okay. Thank you all. I'm very happy because we have a few minutes to take maybe questions from the audience that I don't see really well, but I would be delighted if someone would like to ask a question to one of our guests. I'm not sure that the technical team is ready for that, but we will work it out. No? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a hand. Do we have a mic? Or can we maybe... Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Hello. Can I ask my question in French, maybe, and maybe you can translate later. Okay, thank you. J'aimerais adresser ma question à Xavier Le Guen. J'aimerais savoir à quel point vous considérez, en tant que représentant d'une entreprise comme Salomon, comment les entreprises qui sont très liées à des activités sportives qui renvoient au sport d'hiver, et donc comme on en a parlé de l'impact que ça peut avoir sur la montagne et son évolution, à quel point vous considérez que vous devez participer au changement des usages et des imaginaires sur les sports et les activités qu'on a en montagne?
So I can try to translate this in English. The question was for Xavier Le Guen of Salomon, saying as a brand who has a DNA in winter sports and who makes money and who has made money historically in winter sports, how much do you think you should participate in changing the mindset and imaginary images that people have and insights when we talk about mountains?
It's, of course, it's a very complex question, and thank you very much for asking it, because I think everybody had it in mind, so it's good that you put it on the table. Obviously it's very complex. Again, our approach is first extremely rational. How do we lower our impact? And I think that's where we can absolutely have massive improvement. Behind this rational approach, I understand your question is more on the emotional side. What image do we drive? Here again, I really want to emphasize the fact that winter sports is part of a culture of people living in the mountain. So the question is how do we evolve this practice to lower the impact and so on, and how do we maybe change the way we practice, but we are also, in the same time, absolutely convinced that winter sports is a fantastic way to develop for kids in the mountain, for kids from the city. How many of them, when they go to a classe de neige school experience during a week in the mountain, they come back with sparkles in the eyes? And that's something that we should preserve. And the question is more, should we stop doing this? I think it would be a mistake. It's how do we do it differently so that we do it on the most respectful way? And those kids, and those adults as well, are also the best ambassador to say what's happening in the mountain if the glaciers are melting is not because we're skiing. It's because of a much bigger issue, and everybody, all of us, every one of us, should take this into consideration in the choice we make in our daily life.
You are giving me the perfect transition, Xavier. Is that, yeah? Oh, sorry, we have another question. Oh, it's all right.
Yeah, that's a very short question for you, Xavier. So you have Heïdi sitting next to you, and you said many people have many opinions, but I think scientists should be the people we should believe in and we should follow. So if in one sentence you could say how we can listen more to scientists, I would be interested in your answer. En français, vous avez dit que beaucoup de gens ont beaucoup d'opinions.
Le son est tourné vers là-bas, on n'entend pas.
Ouais, du coup, on vous entend pas vraiment. Venez avec nous, venez là. Venez vous asseoir.
Venez sur scène.
Je vais où? Ok.
Voilà.
Question en français ou en anglais?
En français.
Oula, ok.
Vous pouvez même parler fort sans micro et on vous entend pas bien.
C'est une question pour Xavier. Vous avez dit il y a beaucoup de gens qui ont beaucoup d'opinions et vous avez à côté de vous Heïdi qui est une scientifique. Et donc je me demandais comment est-ce qu'on peut intégrer plus la science dans la politique.
Alors, il faut d'abord merci.
English.
Oh, sorry.
He was like, woo!
Sorry. Yes.
I can help you. We can help you, Éric. He was like, woo! Yeah, I can translate if you want.
No, I think it's better if it's you. Your translation will be better. You want to translate the question? My answer. I said that when you are in charge of responsibility, a political responsibility, even it's local, regional. I'm also regional at the regional council, by example. You have to reduce the distance between the political decision and science, and you have to balance the things you have to choose. I use the example of energy. You can choose an energy which is locally very good, but is very bad for a planet. By example, you can choose a strategy, a tourism strategy, which is very good for your local place, but which is bad for the planet. By example, since 15 years, we stopped long old market, Brazil, China, etc. Long distance market promotion in Chamonix. We stop it. So we have a lot of regional customers.
Éric.
The problem with regional customers is that they came with their cars. And so it's not very efficient for the local situation. So we have to organize the debate with all these themes to balance the good choice between local strategy and the global impacts. Because as Xavier said, it's not because you are skiing that it's not the fault of the skier if glaciers melt. Sorry.
Yeah.
Melt.
Yeah.
But if the skier came with a plane, perhaps is a part of the problem. So we have to promote different solutions like transportation by train. You
Éric,
know
we're going to have to stop.
difficulties we have in France with
He's unstoppable like the
plans. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
yes. No, it's all right. No, you answered the question, so that's good.
The spirit, perhaps.
Yeah, like two-spirited. But we get the point. It's like getting closer, like science and politics, like reduce the distance, and like thinking globally, not only for the territory.
And to balance the shows between
the
disciplinaries, because you can have different advice if you are in charge of biodiversity, or if you have and you have to
different points
to balance
the. Thank you. I'm going to have to conclude this.
It's a real.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the three of you for the exercise. I'm going to let you just leave the stage, and we are going to go to the last chapter of our session. And now I want you to imagine that we are in a mountain refuge. That these guys are talking super loud. So this is the moment when we sit all together by the stove. When things start to get personal, because it's like super freezing cold outside, so we are like just all huddled up together by the fire. And this is when things start to get personal. When we start sharing deep thoughts and intimate stories, and then we have a fireside chat. Because we saw that the future of mountains also lies in the ability to integrate the changes in culture, to bring and to connect a bigger diversity of people to the mountains. And this is how mountain communities will adapt and thrive. Mountains, they are very often seen as exclusive, like they are reserved to a happy few that would have the physical strength, the will to conquer, or like the means to pay for a ski pass. You're going to come with me. But we also have the problem that a lot of people don't have a cultural background that tells them that mountains is an option for them. And our two guests have been fighting their way through the cliches for themselves first, and they are now committed to open up the mountains to other people. Keme Nzerem is a presenter, filmmaker, and journalist, and he's also a founder of Auto, Opening Up the Outdoors, an NGO that works towards making the outdoors community and industry more diverse, equitable, anti-racist, and accessible to everyone. Nadir Dendoune is a journalist, writer, director, and adventurer. He made history in the super elitist mountaineering world in 2008, as without any experience, he became the first Algerian to reach the summit of Chamonix-Mont-Blanc, the mother goddess of the world that some people call Mount Everest. He wrote a book, A Loser on Top of the World, who became a movie. Both of you that are joining me on stage right now. Yeah, there you go, guys. Keme and Nadir.
Hello.
They are proof that mountains are for everyone, but that it can be a huge fight to make it natural and accessible and change mindsets. I see that you guys have already got cozy on the chairs on the side.
We've been bonding.
So, yeah,
we are brothers
nice.
now.
Yeah. So this is a it's going to be like super informal on Fireside chat. So we are like all together. I'm like a little bit warm for someone in the mountains, but it's all right. Keme, maybe we can start with you. Can you tell me, like, what was your experience with the mountains, and that ultimately led you, like, to create Auto?
Yeah, I was very lucky in lots of ways. You know, there's this saying that if you can't see it, you can't be it. I don't really. I think that applies to some people, but it didn't really apply to me. I was very lucky. When I was younger, we lived in Yorkshire, which is in northern England. It's very beautiful. We didn't have a lot of money at that time. My dad was in London looking for work. So my father's Nigerian, my mother's American, she's white. And because we didn't have a lot of money, Mum used to say, right, today, pick up your backpack, here's a sandwich, here's a bottle of water, we're walking up that hill. And so I had a very wonderful experience when I was young. And of course I was young, so I complained. But some part of me...
It's not funny to go up a hill.
Especially when you've got very small legs, right? Yeah. But some part of me really enjoyed that experience, both on a physical and an emotional level. So I have always found energy and peace and belonging from being in big spaces, from feeling small myself. Now, if I fast forward some time, when I was about 11, in London, and you know, London is like Paris. There's not it's a greener city than Paris, but it's a city. It's a big city. The local council, the local government used to arrange sports courses in the summer, and they were subsidized for everybody, so it was very affordable. And I did everything. I was a very sporty kid. I did football and BMX and table tennis and and one year they did skiing. They had a skiing course in London, and I thought, this is où est la montagne, right? But very close to my house, the army had a base, and the army base had a plastic ski slope.
Yeah.
It was like 50 meters long.
Wow.
Horrible. And I loved it. And so I had a very early experience with sliding. And then I got a Saturday job and went on the school ski trip, and I was hooked. So for me, for lots of reasons, I've always felt very connected with both the sport and the spirituality of enjoying these incredibly big spaces.
Yeah, thank you. And Nadir, how was it for you? Because you discovered the mountains like really, really late, like maybe just before climbing Chamonix-Mont-Blanc.
Before climbing the Mount Everest,
yes,
I never climbed any mountains before, but I was lucky to be in the city, in the very left-wing city, called Île Saint-Denis, donc next to the Stade de France, who used to take us to the camp.
Okay,
like it's
to summer camp or mountain camp.
Summer camps, and it was for the youngsters who live in the city. Like we were mostly poor people, like all of us were poor people, like about 80% of social habitation.
Yes.
And we used to go, and at that time, our city used to have a house, like a
summer chalet, like a chalet in the mountain.
Voilà, like a summer chalet.
Yeah.
They used to be the owner of the chalet. And they used to sing the youngster there, like it used to cost to my mom. My mom and my dad were from Algeria. There was like 9 kids.
Yeah.
So they used to send them there, like it cost us my own. So I start to know about mountains when I was there. But we used to do ski in winter. We used to walk on the summer. I used to love it. And then I went and lived in Australia a few years. And back there, and then I realized that all the youngsters who live next to I live,
Yes.
They used to do, like you said, only football, basketball, or boxing.
Yeah.
The mountains in France was for the white people.
Yeah.
And for the rich people.
Yeah.
Because it
Rich
costs a
and
lot
white.
of money to buy jacket,
Yeah.
shoes,
Ski pass,
it's for
ski
it's
gear.
so it was for the elite. It's still the case, huh? You
Yeah.
know, like there are a lot of people who say that it's not still the case, but I think they lie. But so when I went and climbed the Mount Everest in 2008, I did it like as a political movement. Like I wanted to say to the people,
It was a political statement.
that's it.
Yes.
You can be from the poor background.
Mm.
You live in the slums of Paris, but you can do everything you want. Like you can be a girl and do boxing.
Yeah.
Like 40 years ago, girls used not to run. Before the first girl who ran, it was back in 1967 in the Boston Marathon, I think.
Yes.
And all the men used to tell her, "Piece off, get off, get off, get off." So it was the same thing. When I started to do mountains, most of the climbers did not want me to be there. And now, 17 years ago, I work with an association who call Apart, association, like what you do.
Yeah.
And we take lots of youngsters from all the suburbs of Paris to climb. And there is a guy whose name is Samir, who is
Hello, Samir.
owner of this association. So we want, like you do, we want to democratize the practice of climbing.
Yeah, it's like showing it's an option for you, and you have the right to be there. How was it for you, Keme, for Auto?
So, I mean, just what's interesting is it is still a political act for two brown guys to be standing together talking about the mountains. I think.
Are you lucky that I'm not a male?
Well,
like I'm just
but
you're part of
you're
the
one
minority.
of the team. You're one of the team, man. It's all good.
Yeah.
I think 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I was still one of the only black or brown people I would see on the mountain bike trail, skiing, hiking. I think things are changing. 100% things are changing. And things are changing because grassroots groups, change makers, people who love the outdoors are making that change. And the big change that happened for us in the UK really was COVID, was lockdown. At that time, when we were all told, don't go outside, yet you have to go outside to stay sane, we suddenly realized this thing that we were being prevented from accessing was very, very important. And actually during that time, a lot of black and brown outdoors groups started to form. And they started to form around things like bird watching, camping, hiking, stuff that's really important. You know, if you really, most people that climb mountains, most people that end up climbing Everest, I know there are some exceptions, they start with the easy stuff. Some people start with the hard stuff, right? Okay, but we realized that there was black and brown people were accessing mountains, were accessing natural spaces, and just to make a broader political point, if we are serious about activating all citizens to defend the environment, we need all citizens to care about the environment. And one thing is for sure, if you don't spend time in outdoor natural spaces, it's much harder to care. It's much harder to understand. So what happened with Auto, one of my very good friends who is also a black guy, he'd been involved in the snowboard scene in the UK for a very long time. He had been talking to lots of brands about how they can break down the barriers, open doors for more people of color to get outside. And the brand said, let's meet, let's talk. And we came together and we founded Auto. And the thing that we do, we support other change makers who are already doing the work. We give them business skills to accelerate their work. If you've set up a grassroots hiking club for you and your friends, you need to know about things like good governance, fundraising, insurance, branding, IP. Nobody is born with these business skills. So the thing that we do at Alto with the support of the brands is we fast forward the work of the people that are doing the work.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because what you do is like we give the tools to people who are already working like grassroots on the field or locally. And what you are like showing, Nadir, is that it's also super important to change the image that people have in the public space, like in movies, like in a book or in a movie, as you did, but also maybe for brands, they say, just show black people running with Salomon shoes. That's what, like Xavier could tell us about it, that's it's been only a few years since like brands are showing people that are not white, skinny, and super fit in their products. And so it's both working locally, like with apart and outdoor, and also changing everything that is happening in the public space.
Yeah, when you used to watch ads,
yes,
before only just white people used to wear hiking mountains.
Yeah.
Now it's changing because it's called capitalism.
Yeah.
They know that because now, at that time, my parents can't read, they can't write. They were very poor.
Yeah.
Now I work as a journalist, so I have money to buy clothes.
Salomon shoes.
There are more and more black people or dark-skinned people who are getting rich.
Yeah.
So they know there is a market, you know. It's not just helping, there is a market.
Yeah.
It's like they know that a girl, woman buy shoes too. So it's only market, you know.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's not good side. And I wanted to add one thing. It's not just about color of skin. It's also a question of social class.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The white people who live in a small village, they don't go and climb. If you are a rich background, if you have a good job, you are going, you have a cultural basic different.
Yeah.
If you went and did long studies, you know, so that's why that it's not just a basic of color.
So
I think the color it's in the head, but you think it's not for you. But there is also the financial.
Yes, and the thing is also how do we make like mountain and outdoor culture more popular? And it's also, I liked what you said about like saying first, the outdoor is not only like trail running and like like mountaineering. It's also like just going and get mushrooms in the forest or just camping.
100%.
And we have just to broaden the scope of what it means to go outdoor and who it is for.
And so and I know we're running out of time, so we're about to be kicked off. But I did want to say this. I think it's as well as making sure that the images that brands use are more inclusive, and that's not just people of color, it's people of different body sizes and shapes. It is also about making sure that people creating the images, the photographers, the designers, the brand directors are more diverse, and I'll tell you why. We just did some very interesting research at Alto, looking at the different motivations of people to go outdoor. And one of the big things that we found was that for a lot of communities of color, it is less about getting to the top. It is more about the experience.
Yeah, and sharing.
And sharing. Yeah. And if we start to create marketing materials that are more welcoming, yeah, great. I like getting to the top. You like getting to the top. Not everybody needs to get to the top. Some people, they just want to experience it. And you know what? That is beautiful too.
Yeah, it is. Wow. There's nothing more to say. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
Merci.
I'm sorry, that's it. Well, thanks to both of you. We are running out of time. I'm sorry. We are going to be kicked out. If they don't kick us out, we can stay.
Keep going until they kick us out.
Yeah.
Make them kick us out.
No, but what I just get from everything we've been saying in the last hour is that, like, not only mountains are more fragile than ever, but mostly like the communities and people who live there. That the loss of glaciers will deeply impact landscapes, hydrological system, biodiversity, and human societies. And also that the way to fight it is in cooperation and inclusion. It's like more than, we need to open up the mountains just to save them, in fact, actually, and to save the way people live. And it means accepting that the culture will change. Yeah, and that's it. And it's
But
nothing more to say.
But
Yes.
if I can,
Yes,
I
please.
think the more we are going to the mountain, the more we are the mountain too.
Yeah.
So
yes,
this is the difficulty of
Yeah.
it. It's our pleasure.
Mm.
It's like an Occidental luxury pleasure.
Yeah.
But when you meet African, Nepalese people who climb to live,
Yeah.
to eat,
Yeah.
it makes me think. So that's why now I am kind of thinking if I should go again to the mountains.
Yeah.
Because when you go, you damage the
Mm.
mountain
Yeah.
also.
Mm.
Just for your own luxury, you know?
Yes. Or you can go there to share with other people, or just to testify maybe of what's going on and to help them to become more aware of what's going on. So now we are going to be kicked out. So we are done with this session. Thank you very much, guys.
Merci
It was a
beaucoup.
very
Merci.
nice time.
Merci.
Thank you.
Okay.